Thank you, everyone, for joining this event. And there's been a lot of talk about some of the initiatives to help early stage startups, especially from an IP perspective. And the government of Canada had launched this national IP strategy to help businesses learn and gain access to more IP protections. So we're happy to have here Joanna Ma, who is a partner at Bereskin Parr, to help us dive into the details and the new opportunities. So I will turn over the floor to her.
Thanks, Tessie. So thank you so much for making time to attend this presentation, everyone. What I hope to do today is to guide you through the major types of IP and some actually lesser known funding that could be used for part of the IP strategy or filings. I can make this as interactive as possible. Feel free to type in questions in the chat and I'll monitor that as we go. The presentation shouldn't be a full hour, so there will be time for questions at the end as well too. So I'll dive right in. So very quickly about Bereskin Parr, we're a sponsor of the Altitude Accelerator Center. So you might see us doing a bootcamp presentation when in the coming months when September starts off again, along with any referrals we handle as well too, with some complimentary initial consultations, and we also do some more advanced presentation throughout the year or interaction with Altitude Accelerator and the related incubators. We are specifically just an IP law firm. So this is only the work we do related to intellectual property. That includes, for example, patents, trademarks, copyright, industrial designs, anything on the fringe of IP. So regulatory related matters, privacy, data protection, agreements related to IP, we can assist with as well. My background is electrical engineering. So one of the unique things you'll notice about our firm is that our group of patent agents and lawyers do have a technical background. And as you dive further into this IP conversation, you'll understand that it's very important to make sure that the people you work with have a right technical background. So at least that we can speak your technical language and understand where your technology is most crucial and how to best protect it with the different types of IP. So we have expertise in mechanical engineering, physics, for example, biomedical. We have a large group of life sciences individuals with masters and PhDs in all sorts of life science related innovation, as well as a large group of trademark professionals, litigation, as well as regulatory professionals. Our offices are located in Toronto, Mississauga, Montreal, and Waterloo. I'm based in Kitchener myself. I'm also a Canadian lawyer and Canadian patent agent, as well as US patent agent. So one of the benefit of working with us is that we can help you directly prosecute before the US patent office. And so on behalf of any Canadian applicants, we can work directly with the USPTO. This is actually a large part of my practice. I do a lot of US direct work, and it's very helpful to have that direction. It's something worth noting also that if you were to file more internationally, we can help handle all those matters too, because we have trusted relationship with foreign agents. So this is just a brief little background about Bereskin Parr. As I mentioned before, we are sponsors of the Altitude Accelerator Center. So very happy, thanks for the note there, to work with you on any of these IP matters. So this is just a very quick outline of what I'm going to talk about today. And these are the main types of, the first three are main types of programs that have just recently been introduced that cover IP, versions of IP strategy and filing. And I have listed at the end some other funding sources and programs that may be of interest. And so I'll go through each of them and how our firm can assist and what it means to you as well too. And so IP Assist, you may have heard of, it was introduced late last year, and a lot of companies have gone through versions of this IP Assist program. And so IP Assist is a program offered by Industrial Research Assistant Program, NRC IRAP. And so the eligibility for IP Assist is effectively that you need to be incorporated 500 and fewer employees. And so you'll see that's a key thing. Like most of these programs require you to have 500 and fewer employees. And another key aspect of the eligibility requirement for IP Assist is that you do need to be technologically driven and have a plan to be a profit-oriented SME. So biggest thing is if you are already an NRC client, then likely you will qualify for IP Assist, and you should reach out to your ITA, your Industrial Technology Advisor, and discuss with them how you can fit in within the IP Assist program. I'm going to go into deeper dive as to what the program is and how it can benefit you in the coming slides. Should you not already be an NRC client, or then you should reach out to the link there or the phone number and talk with them about how you can qualify and become part of NRC client and be assigned an ITA. So this is a high-level description of what IP Assist entails. And so there are typically 3 levels to it. The first level of IP Assist is awareness. And so that's key to the entire national program. Effectively, that Canada government is trying to introduce an awareness and education of IP for SMEs, for Canadians in general, and to really encourage IP to be filed or retained within Canada. And so level 1 of IP Assist entails $1,000 that's given to the service provider to prepare a tailored one-on-one presentation to you as the SME. I find this as more what we do when we conduct the level 1 presentation is we have an introductory call with the client to understand where the technology lies, what they're looking for in terms of IP strategy, protection or development advice, what kind of IP they have already, and if none, where do they think their IP could be? And so that helps us adapt our presentation to introduce case studies or examples as to what IP may be relevant to you. So we walk through the basic types of trademarks, patents, designs, and then really examples of what may be a similar IP that you could file, especially given the technical domain. And it's usually about under 2 hours presentation where we make it interactive and guide the client towards an appreciation of what IP could do for their business. And so that's one very big takeaway, that IP really shouldn't just be cost-based. It will cost money, obviously, but at the end of the day, it needs to add value to your company. So we try to make it as interactive as possible for you. And depending on what you decide to do after level 1, you can reach back to your ITA and talk about entering level 2, which is more IP strategy development. There are 2 routes to IP Assist. The first route is through IPIC, which is the administrative body for patent agents and attorneys. And so under that route, through the IPIC route, it's you pay an administrative fee of $500 to enter level 2 strategy, and you get $18,000 of funding to spend on developing an IP strategy. I'll have in the next slide a listing of the items that qualify for level 2, but that's one route through IPIC, and that's once your ITA approves it, then you would qualify for the IPIC route of level 2. The other route is through NRC directly, and so that involves a proposal to ITA outlining what you would want to do under the program, the budget for it, and it usually is in the range of $25,000. It's partially funded, so about 70% is covered by level 2 IP Assist, whereas 30% of it is paid off by the company. What's unique about that other route through NRC is that part of that funding could be used for internal salary for the individual within the company who is assisting with developing the IP strategy. And so I've had some clients choose that path because it works better for their company. So there are different routes, and we're happy to guide you and explain what we have found from our side in terms of working with clients going through these. But under level 2, it's the idea is we work with you to develop an IP strategy, develop best practices in terms of how to manage your IP internally, and the next step in terms of adapting your IP to grow with your company. The main things I usually do with clients, especially in the tech space, is that we do a mining session where we spend about 2 hours working with your technical team, understanding what you're currently developing right now and what the growth is towards commercialization. What's the next 2-3 years looking at? And that's really important because a patent term, for example, is 20 years. And so it needs to grow with the direction that your company will head into. And so it's really important to make sure that your patent application is as detailed as possible to adapt, in order to adapt for that growth down the line. And so I find with the mining session, it's really important to understand, like, what we're doing with you right now, potentially as a client, and maybe we don't protect with patents the technology you're implementing right now. But instead, maybe we look forward and see what that potential is down the road, and make sure that we protect that future technology as broadly as possible. So that's a mining session we conduct usually under level 2. We also summarize that in an invention summary for you, grouped according to how we think we can pursue the IP protection. And I think that's really useful, especially in the early stages where we're trying to capture more funding and develop an IP strategy with your advisors, with your potential financiers. So that documentation we found to be very helpful to our clients. And following that, we usually conduct more of a landscape analysis where we conduct a version of a patentability assessment where we see what the technology is. We do a search of what IP is out there that could cause it difficult for you to obtain broad protection. And so we see what's out there in terms from your competitive point of view and assess how wide of scope you could have with your technology. And this involves a little bit back and forth. And depending on priorities within the company, we could do other items that's listed as well. And then finally, for level 3, it's more of an implementation, a more advanced implementation of the strategy developed under level 2. And so the one takeaway about IP Assist program is that unfortunately it doesn't cover any IP filings, any drafting work for patents or trademarks. And so it's a really great program in that it gets you a foot towards developing IP strategy. It gets you an IP strategy and gets you some ideas to where the potential direction is for making those filings, but unfortunately it doesn't cover any of those filings specifically. So again, level 2 IP Assist, the eligible services are listed here, mainly about developing IP strategy, understanding the gap, conducting some landscape background art searching. But again, none of the drafting and prosecution fees and patent office fees are covered under IP Assist level 2, and same as level 3. Level 3, there's more in-depth legal analysis in terms of the IP landscaping, trademark clearance searches, and whatnot. And all of these may vary, depends really on what the company needs from the business perspective. And it might be that something that wasn't that critical at level 2 becomes very critical at the level 3 stage. And so we work with the clients to adapt accordingly. But that's the typical outline of what IP Assist is. I think it's been a really great resource for a lot of companies, and it really helps push them forward and help get them to the next stage where they can then spend their budget on the execution of the IP with a greater appreciation of what their strengths are from the IP perspective. So moving on to the next program, Elevate IP is a fairly new program that's just being launched and launched in across the country. So Elevate IP is a federal program, and so different incubators have been assigned in each of the different provinces. So for the purpose of this presentation, I've listed for Ontario the links that would be most relevant. So Community Tech has been assigned Ontario, and I would suggest that definitely reach out to Community Tech on that link. You can make an appointment with the Elevate IP team at Community Tech and discuss how best you can fit within the program. It hasn't fully been launched right now, but they are undergoing some pilot programs where it could be helpful for you to be aware of. And separately, if you're on the east side, I think you mentioned that you're in Kingston, Invest on Ottawa is actually actively launched. And so you should look into applying for some Elevate IP funding. Again, open to clients, companies with 500 fewer, and depending on the jurisdiction, it is structured a little differently. And so within Ontario, the IP education portion is still underway. But there is a pilot going for the level 2 and level 3 where it's more advanced development of an IP strategy. And so I definitely recommend that you reach out to these links and see how you can, your company can benefit from this program. Elevate IP in some ways is very similar to IP Assist in that it is structured based on these level 1, 2, and 3. The level 1, it will vary between the provinces. So as an example, the BC program that will be launching the coming months, they require you to go through a level 1 certification program before you can gain access to the level 2 and level 3 funding. And so it's a little different for each province, but at the end of the day, depending on how you fit into the different levels, you could gain upwards of up to $100,000 of funding. So depending on where you fit in terms of your IP advancedness and whether you fit in within level 2 or level 3. One huge difference between Elevate IP and IP Assist is that Elevate IP does cover drafting and filings. And so what has been really great for some clients is that if they already have gone through IP Assist, they can then go into Elevate IP and execute the IP strategies they have developed. So I've had some clients go through it this direction, and it bodes well with Elevate IP as well too, because they see that you have already, you're much more advanced in your IP journey through IP Assist, and so they have more confidence that you will be able to benefit more from the Elevate IP program to execute at the later stage. So what's under Elevate IP? Similar to IP Assist in some ways, the development of an IP strategy, performing gap analysis, searching, competitive analysis, most significantly, as I mentioned, the drafting and prosecution of patent, trademark application, and potentially legal opinions. But again, like it really depends on what the client needs and where it matters. So some clients may come in already with a PCT, but they're looking for funding to assist with more national phase entry. So like filing more internationally. And so that could fit in under Elevate IP as well too. So that's something to definitely think about. And if you're at a stage where you're looking to understand more about each of these programs, I have information at the end. Like, definitely feel free to reach out to us. We're happy to talk to you about our experiences with all these programs, and we are eligible service providers for any of these. So definitely you can add our names to the application, and we can help with developing the proposal necessary and also the application for each of these programs. And so the third program that I'm going to talk about today is Intellectual Property Ontario, IPON. And so this one is a provincial program, but also just recently launched as well too. And so again, 500 and fewer employees, and it's up to 25K in funding and provide support to, again, like these core items that we have talked about: learning about IP, developing an IP strategy, and implementing an IP strategy. IPON does cover a portion of the IP services, and so it's not 100% coverage, but it's a significant amount that's covered. And similar to IP, Elevate IP, it does cover some of the drafting and filing fees. And so again, it pairs really well with IP Assist in that you can use IP Assist to help developing and get to a state where you're needing to execute and do a little bit more, like more in-depth legal work, for example, because it does cover IP agreements and strategy assessment. Unlike the other programs, IPON is targeting more prioritized technology. So they've opened up the application to medtech, AI, and automotive right now. So definitely look, if you're within these domains, definitely look at the link included there and apply and see how you can fit within the IPON program. One question we often get is how you can, use the funding for each of these programs and whether you can stack these. You can't use the funding from different programs for the same type of services. And so we work with our client to better understand what kind of funding they're looking to get, they're eligible to get, because again, these programs are being launched, and we work out a plan to make sure that we use the portions of the funding for the applicable eligible services and are able to cover those services under those programs and move on to the next services from the different programs. And so we're happy to work with you on that. And we have the experience to making sure that it's your funding from all these different sources are best utilized. So those are the 3 core programs that have been launched federally and provincially. I am going to talk about some other programs where they are lesser known. One example is the Can Export Innovation Program. This has been put on pause since June 19th, but what's unique about it is that it gives you funding up to $75,000 to support collaborative R&D work with foreign partners. So the key to that is it would cover application fees for foreign application and prosecutions if you can show that you will launch commercially the technology within the next 5 years, and you have a prototype and you have a potential collaboration with a foreign partner in that jurisdiction. And this is really unique in that for the longest time, no government funding was really available to cover IP protection, and especially anything related to foreign protection for IP rights. And so this is something to look at, especially if you're looking in entering foreign jurisdictions, and hopefully it is reinstituted soon, but definitely keep that link in mind. This Innovative Solutions Canada funding was really interesting in that it's effectively launched by the federal government, and it's a call to innovators to solve Canadian problems. And so there are 2 streams to it, and the funding available varies depending on the challenge. So the first challenge stream is just problems that the Canadian government has identified, and it's calling for proposal. It's more early stage innovations, and some IP costs can be eligible for that funding. The type of challenges that are launched are different. They have different open windows, so it's definitely something to look at from time to time to see what has been launched, what's open in the past, and see. I have had clients succeed in getting funding through these, and so it's definitely something to keep in mind. The second stream is more advanced, where they need the prototype, and they do offer some funding for IP filings, and the IP is retained by the company. So I thought this was really interesting, and the type of problems offered by the federal government just made me really proud of our country, in that we are looking for ways to solve problems with technology potentially, but we're open to the innovation offered by our Canadian innovators. And finally, this is for a much more advanced stage company, in that it's available for obtaining a security a loan with your IP. And so it does require a more established IP, and this is through the BDC. And so some, you need to show that you have 1 million of revenue in prior 12 months and that you have commercialization of IP on the go. And it's again, it's a much more advanced stage, but it's a different way of obtaining funding with IP. And so it's something to keep in mind. It's been introduced in the past couple of years, and the group that is running it used to be a company called Quantius that really is aware of IP, and so they acknowledge and understand and appreciate the value that IP can bring to a company. So that's really the crux of the presentation. Bereskin Parr, we can assist with you talking about how your company can benefit from these programs, really how each of them may apply to you. We can also be service providers for each of these programs. We can be listed on it, and then help with you in developing the scope for each program, developing the proposal, as well as the application of it. The cost estimates, we have experience in developing cost estimates that's within the right format for each of these programs, and we're happy to chat and see how we can best execute that together. So I'm open to questions if anyone has that, and yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joanna. Any questions you could either put in the chat or you could just raise your hand, and Joanna would be happy to answer.
I think we have a question from Dawn. Hi, Dawn.
Hi, Dawn Landry. I'm actually from IPON. I'm the Senior Director of Strategy and Partnerships at IPON. So thank you so much for this presentation. It's like something that we're working on as well, kind of looking at everyone out there, and kind of we get asked that all the time. What's the differences, and where should we go? So I think it was a great representation. Just a note on IPON services that you had up. That is for the beta test phase, and that phase is over right now. So we are scaling up. So we're going to be looking at another intake probably in the fall. And as part of that, we're looking at broadening our sectors. So we won't be focusing only on 3 priority sectors anymore. We're looking at extending funding. We're looking at different streams for different, Joanna, you apply link there. That's great. Like if you're looking for potential funding, go to that. I think it takes 10 minutes to fill out the application, and you'll be on our mailing list, and you'll be kind of on the list to kind of, when we have our next call for proposal, you'll be included in that. So you'll have all the latest in terms of what we're doing at IPON.
Thanks, Dawn. That's really helpful. And I have to say, IPON has been very responsive to our questions, and I know it's difficult to launch a new program. So thank you so much for that.
No problem. Thank you. And please reach out if you have any questions as well.
Thank you.
On, go ahead.
Yeah, first, thank you, Dawn, for the new information, because if we are not in the AI, but we are lean tech industry. So I hope that the next con will have lean tech.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what we've heard. Like, we need to be flexible, and we need to kind of address all the sector needs out there. So definitely that's our plan.
Yeah, and I would like to ask Joanna about so if we apply for the IP Assist program, and then because I see that it's cover, for example, level 1 and level 2, and then to the step of filing and drafting and filing the for example, the patent, we jump to the Elevate IP programs. So is that, I heard from you that is usually also a good way to do it, but I saw the Elevate IP program has also level 1. So do I have to go through the level 1 the Elevate program to go to level 2 and 3?
Not so, under the pilot program, no, and likely not in the future as well to offer as offered by Communitech. They are not trying to duplicate what exists out there already, and so most of the time, Communitech in terms of how they have launched the Elevate IP program is that they will onboard you first, so they understand, they meet with you and understand like what you're looking for in terms of IP support, and then they will then slot you into the specific levels. And so they're not looking to make you, jump through all the hoops. And so they adapt with you. So definitely reach out to them. And if you are already going through IP Assist, then definitely make that aware, make them aware of that. And they can likely slot you in the later stage where you can execute the plan developed from IP Assist. Yeah. And I would also emphasize, definitely, even through IP Assist, when you apply, it might be that they offer different service providers, and then you can still reach out to, especially it seems like you mentioned Bereskin Parr has assisted with some work for you. You can have Bereskin Parr listed as well too. With IP work, I think it's really important for it to be consistent with the same firm, just because they know your tech already, and you kind of save costs and time as well too. So it's something to be aware of.
Okay. So how the process should it be? Should I register to be a member or a client of NRC to apply to the program, and then they assign us to Bereskin and Parr, or we work from the beginning with Bereskin and Parr to apply for the program from NRC, from IRAP, from NRC?
Yeah, so the IP Assist program, you have to go through NRC. So you would go to that link or phone number and just call them and say, I would like to apply for NRC support. And so NRC is actually much wider than just the IP Assist program. It actually provides you with technology support and a lot of different types of advice for SMEs and with tech-driven solutions. And so once you apply, you are assigned an ITA, Industrial Technology Advisor, and then you would just raise with them, say, hey, I want to be part of this IP Assist program, and I work with Bereskin and Parr, and so just list that, and then you will be directed to the application process. And then we would help, depending on which route, I'm happy to talk more about the different routes as well, too, depending which route you fall in. We can help with the proposal. Under one route, you have to have a proposal ahead before you get the funding approved.
Thank you. That's very clear. My last question, and then I'll let the other participant to ask. I did not follow some. You said in the level 2 of the IP Assist, the company have to pay like $500 for the registration, and then the program will cover 70%. Is that correct?
So those are the two routes under IP Assist. So under one route, it's administered by the IPIC program. So that's IPIC, and so IPIC is the administrative body for patent agents and lawyers. So they are administering that route of IP Assist level 2. And so once you qualify for level 2, you paid $500 of a min fee, and you qualify for $18,000 of funding, and that's completely funded by the IP Assist level 2. Route number 2, another option is that where you have to submit a proposal ahead, and 70% of that is covered for the services offered under IP Assist level 2. But that's upwards to about $25,000. So that depends. So that's more of a traditional NRC route. So under NLC, you can get funding for development of technology as well, or work related to technology. And so that route of IP Assist level 2 would involve a proposal from our end, a request for a certain amount of funding and outlining what you need to be done. And 70% is covered, but one option is to retain some of that funding for internal salary.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, thanks very much for your questions.
Anyone else? Okay, I think I'm going to close the session, and I'm going to thank everyone for joining today, and thank Joanna for actually spearheading this important topic. I will be providing a video recording for everyone who's registered for this session. And Joanna, should people have further questions, where should we redirect them to?
Just feel free to email me directly. I can send you a copy of the slides as well to send out.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you, everyone, for joining today, and have a great day and have a great weekend.
Thanks so much, Hessie.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, bye-bye.